English translation channel. This is the 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 English translation channel.
Dear panelists, please take your seats. We will start in a couple of minutes. Уважаемые спикеры, прошу занимать места.
Dear speakers, please kindly take your seats. That's it. So which allows for great plantation, and plantation is not so expensive like a super expensive building. So you will have your first cluster ready. When you start building the second cluster, you're adding the second school and the second kindergarten. So this is also very important because these are very high investments in social infrastructure, and they just come right on time, so to speak, when the residents move in, not before and not after, and you have a plan in place how to locate them in which areas for the next 5 to 10 years already. Some samples of social facilities. Social facilities, yes, they can be also nice. They can also incorporate like libraries or public functions, so really look at them as something integrative to the community, and then they can have also very nice functions. Last but not least, finally, we arrived at the residential quarters, so to speak, and this is what an urban plan or master plan is, of course, all about. But as you can see, it's not the first thing we put in, it's the last thing we put in. Because first we need infrastructure, we need school, we need green, we need public spaces, and then we can add the residential quarters. These residential quarters, which we see here in green, they like schools and neighborhoods. But one thing what we have to do, and this is also what Dennis mentioned in his, so to speak, on the site, so all these residential quarters will be built between 7 and 24 floors, so it will be a very dense development, but again, we will balance that with all the green and social infrastructure all around. Some pictures of typical residential quarters we're seeing here, and what you also see, we create a skyline by the use of different heights, playing with the levels, playing with the architecture. And also here, if you have a master plan for a 5 to 10 year development plan, you can easily allocate certain plots to certain architects, designers, which is
a stable regulatory environment. And also in this panel, we've heard a lot about sustainability, very, very important. And then, the heading of this panel, Comfort in Cities, it's quality of life, very, very important. But let me explain. So Tashkent has been growing quite rapidly over the last couple of years, which is good. But growth brings a lot of challenges along the way, obviously. You start feeling, congested traffic, roads, outdated infrastructure, things like that. I'm sure some of it you will be feeling here already, but it will be more and more, as it moves forward and continues to grow. And as it grows, you will need to do more investment. It's the fuel that gets it going, but there's only that much that the public, that the government can do. But it's not only the investment that the private sector can contribute. It's about bringing capabilities together. Obviously, the public side is good when it comes to the regulatory framework, making things happen from again, a regulation point of view, etc. But the private sector obviously has other capabilities, getting the execution done, in terms of efficiencies, effectiveness, etc. But what private capital needs, obviously, is a very clear vision. Where does the city, the country, where does it want to go politically in terms of the development, etc., etc. So, and that leads to predictability, and we've heard the president yesterday talk about this as well. So, and the other panelists yesterday, investors need predictability. They need to, obviously, you invest to make money, and it needs to be sustainable returns, etc. So for that, you need to have a very, very clear vision. Everyone involved needs to know where this is going. It needs to be very, very clearly formulated and executed, that vision. So if you want
Tashkent to be a great place, you know, you obviously need it to be an attractive place. It needs where people want to live, want to work, want to, you know, want to spend their time. And for that, again, it needs to be, you know, it needs to have quality of life, and that often comes. We've heard about it in this panel as well. But you need modern, sufficient infrastructure, be it utilities, be it roads, tunnels, anything around energy, but very important also transportation and also communication. So the benefits of bringing the public and the private sectors together is obviously the regulatory framework and then the capabilities of the private sector. We've got some great examples in Turkey where over the last 20 years we've had massive investment into the infrastructure, especially on the transportation side, on the manufacturing side, but also on the healthcare side. There have been, you will have heard of the Istanbul airport. That's a very good example. We've had a third Bosporus bridge. We've had 2 tunnels underneath the Bosporus. We've had 36 public-private partnership healthcare projects. Those are like healthcare villages, you could say. Huge you know, infrastructure in terms of healthcare, hospitals, and then also private investment on the back of that. So there's some very, very good examples around that. And again, you know, in terms of financing, in terms of efficiencies, you know, think of the Istanbul airport that was built in, I think, around 3 years. And that was a very, very good example of putting a very, you know, focused public side, the regulatory framework, but then again, the efficient capability of the private sector to get things done. It's a massive airport. It will have 200 million passenger capacity with the last phase of it. But there are many, and why is this important? It's not only the capability of the private industry, it's also the public side's determination. Think of other examples in Germany, for instance. They've been trying to build an airport for 20 years, and other places around the world. You need to have that determination. You have to have that framework to get things happen. So you bring the best of the 2 worlds together. And I emphasized a lot on the regulatory framework. That not only helps to get things done, it makes it also very, very predictable again for investors and for the financing parts, banks, etc. So that's also very, very important when it comes to, you know, speeding up all of those phases in the process. So sustainability is a very, it's not only a buzzword. Investors are looking at it. You know, ESG is on the agenda of all the big, and we've heard it on this panel yesterday a lot. ESG is very, very important because not only because it has to be there, it's really on the investor sides. All of the big funds, you know, be it private equity, be it sovereign wealth funds, it's high on their agenda. If it's not ESG compliant, then there's no financing, there's no investment. So it's very, very important.
Work in that city. How's you know, the whole energy concept of the city going to work. That's all part of that. And lastly, quality of life. I mentioned that if, you know, you do all of that, you don't think about quality of life, you know, think of all these ghost towns that have been developed over the last couple of decades in places like, you know, we all know these ghost cities in China, for instance. They are huge, huge cities, but no one's living in there. That's not right. I mean, that's not how it's going to work. So you have to focus on every facet of people's lives and needs. They have to want to live there. There has to be the work opportunities. There has to be, you know, it's no surprise that, you know, think a couple of years back when Amazon was thinking of, you know, headquarter 2, they were looking for cities that had young talent, young educated talent. They were looking at universities. They were looking at childcare, because it's important when you've got young engineers you want to employ in massive numbers. You know, they will have young families. They will have children that need to be taken care of. And that's not only school buildings, it's the whole infrastructure around it. So, and when you've got all of that, you know, in the case of Amazon, they will move to these cities and they will make huge investments. And investors will need those occupiers, they will need those you know, people living in those cities. So coming back to what I said in the beginning, we've heard a lot about vision, and I think more will need to be done on that end. And then if you bring all the sides together, public side, private side, because urban development is massive in scale, you need everyone involved. But it's not all about public or public-private partnerships. On the back of this, you will see more private investment as well. When you've got these big investments, especially on the transportation side, that will open up new areas for development. And they will be smaller in size and scope. That's where you will have the opportunities for more and more private investors to also come in. So it's really also a catalyst for more investors to come in of various sizes, private investors, and not only local ones, but also because of the framework that you will have then, it will bring more investors, smaller ones, also from abroad, from countries near and far, because of the risk-return profile. It will take it to another level. When you've got all of this investment happening already, it will be much, much easier. So this is why, you know, as a general concept, public-private partnerships, especially on this big scale, are so important. And to just give you, last one, to give you an example, what we've been doing over the last, it's almost 3 months now after these earthquakes. And what we've done as the Real Estate Association is we try to be a catalyst to formulate the vision and bring the private industry to work together with the public side, with the government, to master plan and sort of develop the master planning strategy. Because I mean, it's been a complete disaster what happened during the earthquake. So in a very, very short period of time, we were able to formulate a strategy and to basically put together the vision together with the government. And that has basically led to, you know, we've brought together a whole bunch, you know, dozens and dozens of architects, urban planners, you know, think of Norman Foster, etc., working together with the government, with Turkish players to, in a very, very short period of time, to develop the vision and the master plan strategy to not only rebuild what's been demolished, but to make it great again and strive for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tura. And Tura touched already the subject of cities' competition for talents, and that corporations, they follow talents. And Vladislav, I know that you have some insights on that. So Vladislav.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you very much, everyone. Those of you who stayed until the end of this panel, I hope this is interesting. I hope I will not disappoint you with what I'm going to say. And when this morning I was thinking about how I would summarize my presentation, I couldn't find one sentence, and I'd like to borrow what our colleague from Warsaw said, which is the arrogance of the city developer. So I define myself as a city developer. With BCG, I'm overseeing our entire city's business globally. And I would like to describe what happened in city development and city architecture for the last, I would say, 100 years, a few hundred years, as arrogance. The arrogance I would define like this. The urban planners, city developers like me, my predecessors, would say the following. They would say, you build and they will come. Meaning that if you build, housing and offices, people will come. Well, this is not true. As my colleague from Turkey just said, the ghost cities in China. And the number is, that you need to remember, is 100 million. 100 million units in China are empty. 100 million apartments. So today, the paradigm should be completely different. When you plan to build, you need to answer a very simple question that is difficult to answer. Why will the people come? And so, if we could move to the next slide, please. I'm going to talk about a few concrete examples that actually, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I guess this one. Yes. So everyone talks about the prosperity of the city. And here, for those who are not fluent in English, we had a Russian translation here. And to me, the best example of the arrogance was good arrogance 100 years ago by the famous architect, French architect Le Corbusier, who said the following: the city is going to be prosperous as long as you define the zones, I hope you like my French accent, the zones of specialization between residential, office, and entertainment. That's it. That was the algorithm. Le Corbusier built this famous, spalne rayony. That was his invention. This worked very well for 100 years. But about 50 years ago, urban developers like me started to speak about comfort. Something changed. And one example that many of you know, but I would like to mention, that's my favorite example. In 1850, Paris, a city where I lived for 15 years, Paris went bankrupt. Bankrupt. Why Paris went bankrupt? Because of, in the middle of Paris, in downtown, the small streets, which today are best touristic attraction, they became so overcrowded, so many people live there that safety was not there, that even health considerations were very bad there, because you had pandemics, actually big pandemics inside Paris. And everything became so bad that actually rich people started to leave Paris for other cities. And because they wouldn't pay the tax anymore in Paris, Paris went bankrupt. And so then Monsieur Haussmann, who then was le préfet de Paris, was tasked with, rebuilding Paris. And that's how he cut through the boulevards that we know today, Champs-Élysées, Boulevard Haussmann. He became the most unpopular politician in France for the 10 years of this project. And now everyone remembers Mr. Haussmann as the one who built the new Paris, the Paris as we know today. So the learning from this is that the arrogance has to stop. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means concretely. So here, you see on this slide the list of the project that BCG does worldwide with the cities. And the projects are all about urban planning, city development, but you see the words here that don't look like urban planning and city development. The clients are asking us the question, will this master plan help economic development of the city, and how? Yeah? Will people come? Why, if we implement this master plan, people will come and stay? Will the climate be addressed? Today we spoke a lot about temperature issues, climate and sustainability issues. Will people lose less than 1 hour in traffic on average? In France, for instance, we did analysis, BCG did, and we found that actually unemployed people of residents of Paris, if they have to spend more than 1 hour in traffic, they will not take the job. They would continue to be on the French welfare. Okay, French have very good welfare, but they would not take the job if it's more than 1 hour to go to the office. So something is changing, and what is changing actually is the paradigm. Before, as I said, the paradigm was like this: you build a city, people will come and businesses will come. Today, this monopoly of the city has stopped. And the paradigm is like this: the city has to make big efforts in order for the people to come. And once people come, the talent now we call them, businesses will come. It's very different. Now, people follow good cities, and businesses will follow the people. And this changes everything. And in that, cities need to develop the capability of sales and marketing towards the people. What we see today in this project that I'm describing is that cities are actively evaluating the value proposition towards the residents. They build the sales and marketing, so they reaching out to the people, they build a brand, so they all care about how they look like, the city looks like towards the resident, potential resident of the city. And once the people came, they would like them to stay. For instance, the city of Dubai, that many people know, like very rich, beautiful architecture, very modern. They now have a program for those who come, so they stay. So that's a big change. Now, in this big change, just a couple of examples of what is going to happen, what kind of features you will see in the city of the future. So, just a couple of them. First, the role of the office. Le Corbusier said you just need to allocate this district to the offices, and the offices will be the space to work. The office is not the space to work anymore. In New York City, over half of Class C offices are massively losing their tenants. The reason is remote working. The reason is competition. And it's a big problem because the owners, the landlords, do not have the income anymore, and they still have to pay the city tax. So the office of the future is not the space to work. People can work now from their homes, their trains, their streets, from other cities. It's a space to interact, the space to innovate, the space to build connection with other people. So it's a premium interaction space. That's the CBD of the future. We saw a lot of, big and beautiful buildings in the presentation that we saw in the beginning. Well, these big and beautiful buildings should be designed in such a way that it's not just a cubicle where someone can come and sit. And why would they come and sit? You can sit in your taxi and do your Zoom calls the same way, right? You just put the appropriate background that looks like an office, right? That's all you need to do, right? This is a massive phenomenon. That is one. The other one is, let me take the suburbs. So traditional cities were 5 kilometers in diameter. Why is that? Well, the reason is the same 1 hour that the French people that I mentioned at the beginning do not want to exceed to go from home to the office. 1 hour walking time somehow is the constant in city development. And if you exceed 1 hour, people kind of go less, even in the medieval cities. And so the traditional, classical, many European cities are like this. is 5 kilometers because it's about 1 hour walking time. Then the American cities are car-based cities, so the whole design was around the cars, like Los Angeles is like this. Los Angeles is not on the seashore, which is surprising. The only reason for this is that so the car can also come from the other side, from the shore side, right? And the diameter of that car-based cities is 20 kilometers. Mobility technology has changed the paradigm of design of the city. Today we're going to speak about 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers. So in the design of the city of Tashkent, by the way, beautiful presentation, really at the beginning, a lot of data, you will need to consider the greater Tashkent, and not just 10 kilometers out of Tashkent, but 50 kilometers out of Tashkent, 100, 200 kilometers, because of two new technologies that come into play here. One technology is remote working. People do not need to come to the office every day, but they will need to come to the office maybe once a week for this premium interaction. And then the other one is high-speed trains. For instance, in Japan, there is an offer from a airline that actually is a weekly trip from Osaka to Tokyo, and a rental apartment in Osaka. So this is what we see, and therefore we call this phenomenon a meta-city. A meta-city is a city which is both physical and virtual, and its catchment area, you know, the effective diameter is 100 or 200 kilometers, not 20 kilometers anymore. And with that, I'm going to talk, that's my last slide, by the way, so I promise to be short. How concretely can cities work on this value proposition towards the residents? So here you see the cities of choice, which is a rating BCG publishes every 2 years. So that's the 3rd edition of cities of choice. You can see this on my LinkedIn. Just you find me on LinkedIn, and there is a link on cities of choice. That's in for everyone's access. And here we have the rating of 79 cities globally, and we rank the cities exactly towards the preferences of the people. Yeah? So it's not about comfort, it's not about sustainability, it's about everything. And we found that actually people are not coming to a city for comfort. The first reason why people come and stay is jobs, is what we call economic opportunity. If there are no jobs, people will not come. Or some people will come, but many people will not come. So the first column here, you can probably, yeah, you can see here on the screen. The first column is the economic opportunity. So it's basically your income, your jobs, minus cost of living. The second column is what we discuss a lot today, is livability. But livability is not only, you know, everyday's comfort. It's about, you know, how safe the city is, how close the green spaces are, how convenient is the access to schools, how easy it is to go from your apartment to your office, how easy and nice it is to take the night walk in the evening. That all defines the dimension of the comfort. Then you have social capital. Social capital is two things. One is, do you like my neighbors? Do I like my neighbors? Do I trust my neighbors? Here we ask the question, how many neighbors would you leave your child with? And, you know, in Tashkent here, it's actually quite a big number. So the social capital is very good. In cities like Paris or Moscow is much less. Is maybe one person on average. In city where I now live, Riyadh, is very big. It's like 4 to 5. So social capital is an important dimension because people who come to a city, they would like to be included. They would actually not like to just live in a cubicle and be on Zoom, right? They also would like to have some physical interaction, some good feeling of support in the actual world in the evening when they're out of the Zooms. And then you have something which is important, vibrancy. You know, you will read a lot, you know, this city is vibrant, this city is not vibrant. Today Tashkent is vibrant. 10 years ago Tashkent was not vibrant. Dubai is vibrant today. You know, European cities are less vibrant than they used to be. You know, what is vibrancy? So we have defined in the analytical model that we have built, it's about 5 million data points. Out of 5 million data points, we could not explain by the 4 dimensions here on the left, economic opportunity, livability, social capital, relationship with authority, all of the changes of the preferences between the people. And we had to introduce vibrancy. And vibrancy is very simply defined as pace of change. So a city that is changing along important dimensions for the people are vibrant. Vibrant meaning, you know, you have this kind of, you know, something is happening there. It is the pace of change. So today you're free to use this data. Actually, it is in public access on my LinkedIn. Vibrancy is also important. So to conclude my brief presentation, I'd like you to remember just a couple of messages. First, the arrogance of the urban planner should stop. And the new paradigm is you build thinking first why the person will come and stay. Once you have this, the investors will follow the talent and they will come. You don't do the other way around. You almost don't think about investor first. You can think about investor first, but at the same time you need to think about people first. But you never ever just build something beautiful because this is not working anymore. You know, the simple question to ask yourself is, and I'm sitting here next to someone from city of Tashkent, is why would a talented person, an IT developer, come to Tashkent and not to Baku, and not to Almaty, not to Dubai, not to Riyadh. There's all the same region. Tashkent to Baku is 1.5 hours, Tashkent to Riyadh is 3 hours, Tashkent to Dubai is 3 hours. You know, why? Why would they choose Tashkent? So the choice of the people is very important. I invite you to read the Cities of Choice report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vladislav. Thank you very much for insights. And also, I would like to, can you turn off the microphone? Also, I would like to thank Ministry of Investments for making this session possible. Thank you, all of you who attended this session. And also I want to remind you that the importance of such conferences is not just to listen to presentation, to keep notes, whatever, but also to interact, to ask questions, to talk to speakers, to talk to each other, to extend your network of professionals. Because as our colleagues said, that the arrogance of urban planners are gone, so all the urban planners are now open to discuss all the important matters. And again, thank you very much. Let's thank our speakers. И, уважаемые коллеги, поставьте...
Dear colleagues, please, we have a video. Please kindly put it on screen at the end of our event. Thank you.
Rain is falling on my skin, and I feel so much regret. And I want to go back, yeah, and go back and make this whole. Rain is falling